Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hello, welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm Nikki Wallman. It's been 60 years since the Holocaust, and for survivors, the Holocaust remains real and ever present. But for some children, it seems a part of ancient history. And so to teach and inform about the Holocaust is difficult. But recently, Herzlia High School in Cape Town hosted a Limmud-style Yom Hashoa Day of Remembrance learning program for 360 learners.
Over the many years, we have had various ways of commemorating the day of Yom HaShoah, and I have to say that we've had some very wonderful and meaningful programs in the past. However, I think because those programs have been relatively short, they have really been somewhat superficial, and the desire has been to give the children something that offers them a more in-depth look at the Shoah, but from as many different perspectives as possible, because of course the variation of children have a variety of different interests.
As Holocaust survivors are dying out, the message and the way that we engage with our youth around Holocaust education needs to become creative and have a breadth to it. And for me, the main ingredient here was about engaging with a whole host of different presenters, which would come with a cross of media message approaches and give the learners choice about where they wanted to spend their 45 minutes to an hour engaging with the topics and with this common theme of Holocaust.
And after many, many months of planning, we're very excited that it went off so smoothly and that the kids really responded so well. And walking around to the 40 different sessions that were taking place, you could see that they were in groups and they were engaging with the presenters in general. And the feedback so far has been tremendous.
We talk about a very personal experience of God in the camps. They talk about how God was with them in the camps. And in fact, some have said that when they ask the question, where was God? They answer, God was with me, but where was man? Now, what Rabbi Eliezer Berkowitz puts forward is this argument of free choice, and how, in fact, the Holocaust raises much more profound questions about man than it does about God.
So Rabbi Darren spoke about what we can take out of the Holocaust on a positive note. And what I got from this was he spoke about how different Jews are, how we were in the death camps and we weren't only dealing with questions of life and death, but people turned to the rabbis to ask them such simple questions of how do we live our life in the camps? Do we put up a mezuzah in a death camp? Because you would think that someone would deal with such greater issues, like such as how do I repent for my sins at this point when I'm about to die? But no, they dealt with the basic questions. How do I live to my fullest now while I'm in the camps?
It was very intense and very sobering, but important to hear about, as we can't ever really fully understand exactly what happened.
The benefit of an event like this would be, in my opinion, to show insight, other people's insight, and give many sides of the story to school students who would otherwise probably not be exposed to anything like this.
The talk we did today was called Unstilled Voices, or Voices Unstilled, which is all about how Jews survived the Holocaust through using their musical talent. And we explained to the pupils and illustrated through various survivor testimonies through audio and visual clips. And I think that the children really took something out of it, a sense of hope to the future and how the miracles of these survivors can inspire them all.
You leave the nest and learn to fly, only to find you can't return. Verlost, vergesst dein Heim, dein Nest.
I chose the song by my uncle Leib Rosenthal. He wrote the lyrics was Ich ben kaheim, which is I miss home, which gives a sense of the longing and the sadness of everything that you had to leave behind. And the lyrics was something that they could relate to because it talked about an everyday subject that they experience every day, which is going home and having a home. And I think it was something they could tangibly relate to and be made to think that what would it be like if it wasn't there, to give them something of the experience of a ghetto person.
During the course of the morning, the students were able to select from 30 sessions that were specifically Holocaust-related and designed as interactive workshops, multimedia presentations, or lectures.
So here's a picture of a destroyed village near Shataya in the Darfur region of Sudan. So now have a look and try and figure out what isn't there.
In most communities, there's normally a temple of worship.
So this is a very interesting idea of looking at another side. Instead of looking at a person who's suffering, which I find hard to take, this is another way of understanding what happened. And it also gives you a sense of what happened to a community as a whole rather than as an individual. You can see that this entire community has been wiped out.
Look, teaching is a critical aspect of every individual's life. Teaching the Holocaust is even more difficult because it's like teaching about history. So how do you bring history alive? And especially today when we're nearing the end of our survivors' life on Earth, we have to find ways of ensuring that Jewish continuity takes place. And it's our responsibility as educators to find ways of getting the kids to remember and to understand and to learn from the lessons of the Holocaust.
There is obviously a difference in the way that young adults like them relate to sources compared to how we relate to those sources. You know, when one talks about losing children or parents or things like that, those are life experiences that maybe we've had, which thank God they've not gone through. So that they can't necessarily connect in the same way. But they're connecting in their own ways, and they're asking great questions. I mean, I got some 3 or 4 fabulous questions from the audience during the course of my talks that really challenged me to think differently about the subject matter, and it's always great to engage with young adults. I enjoy it.
How do you think that South Africans got to South Africa? And the heritage of broken families between Europe and South Africa was created? These are questions that you need to be asking in terms of transporting yourself back from your South African understanding of yourself and thinking to yourself, why am I looking at this Holocaust history? What is the connection to me?
The question that most people want to know when it comes to the Holocaust is why? But the question assumes something else, which is something that we're going to discuss a little bit today, which is that before you start figuring out the why, you have to start wondering about the what.
What happens if the Holocaust had taken place in a very different context? So I think the point is that hate doesn't discriminate. Hate doesn't discriminate. Just think about that for a second.
I've basically just seen mostly other people's perspectives. I haven't agreed with all the perspectives so much. A lot of them are based on quite a religious point of view, and I think addressing the questions in a more secular ways is the best way, simply because I view Herzlia as quite a secular school in its current iteration. They've been good though. I've enjoyed them, and I think they've been very beneficial.
I think it's really interesting, and I think as Herzlians, we're really privileged to get the opportunity to speak to these people.
I think that everyone should be exposed to this, and especially being a Jewish citizen living in South Africa today. I mean, to feel a connection with it. I think that's very important, and we must truly cherish and appreciate every moment that we are given today.
What we wanted to do here for this year, as our first year, was to actually master it. There are elements of it that can be taken by the Holocaust Center. It needs a driver to take the next stage of education, moving from factual, historical into experiential. So I think this is a comfortable place in which to start and evaluate and then take it forward.
And I think this is a way of educating for the future, not only in areas like the Holocaust, but maybe in other subject areas where pupils have opportunities of learning language in a different way, learning maths in a different way. So this was a wonderful pilot project. It taught the pupils about the Holocaust, and it taught us as educators that there are other ways of doing things, and to think laterally and think out the box, and try to make education exciting for our pupils, which is what we always aim to do.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you'd like to catch up on any shows you might have missed, you can find them on our website at www.spiritsister.co.za. And of course, we do love hearing from you, so find us on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions. As always, from me, Nikki, and the Simcha team, shalom and have a safe and peaceful week.